Hello everyone, my name is Joshua and I'm a semi-senior developer here at Produce Studio. And in today's tutorial, we're going to dive into something real exciting, how to sync your Webflow CMS with a Xano database using webhooks, Xano APIs, and Webflow's API. This process will allow you to keep data in sync between Webflow and Xano, making it easier to manage collections dynamically and seamlessly across your platforms. So let's dive in. So the first step, in order to sync our Webflow CMS with Xano's database, we will need to have already created the Webflow collection we want to sync. Remember that all I will do, you guys would have to do for every new collection to sync. So first, we go here to the CMS tab. Then we will find here the collection. So in this case, I have the blocks collection. I will go to settings, and here all I have to do is to retrieve this collection ID value. So I will copy this and I will save it for later to use on our Xano setup. Okay, so now let's head over to Xano to set up our database tables. We will create, in this case, two tables. First, we have the Webflow collection table. This will be the table that will handle all the Webflow collections that will store each CMS collection we want to sync. We will add only two columns here. First, the name and the Webflow ID we retrieve from the settings page on the specific CMS collection. Then, for this case, we have the CMS blocks. As we see previously, we have a blocks collection in the CMS. Here, we will have to add all the same columns we have in the CMS collection. So we have name, tag, summary, image, and overview. And we will also add two new columns. We have CMS ID and CMS slug, which are two unique values generated by Webflow and that we will have to get from the webhooks data that we will retrieve. So that would be all you have to set up in the database structure. Okay, so now for this next part, we would have to set up all the webhooks here in Xano. So we would create three new APIs. First, we have the new Webflow item, we have the edited Webflow item, and we have the deleted Webflow item. This would be in order to sync all our data in our CMS, all the changes, all the new inputs, all the deleted inputs here with Xano. So I will explain how to set up this with Webflow. So first, we would have to go to the Webflow's API page. Here we have the list sites get function. So we would have to authenticate. Here I have already do it. So we will send the request and we would get this ID for this site. As we can see, it's Dataly, which is the name of the one I am using. So I will take this ID. Then I would go to the create webhook. Here is a post request. We would have to set here the site ID we have just get. We would also set here the URL. So we would have to do this 3 times, one for each trigger. So first we have the collection item created. We would go here to the new Webflow item. We would get the endpoint URL. Go here again. We would paste that here. Select the collection item created and send the request. And we would do here the same for the other two webhooks. So we go here, we go to edited webflow item, copy endpoint here, go to item change, paste, send request, and lastly, we will do the same for the delete. So here, copy, webhooks, here we can change it, and item deleted. So we run. And now we have just set up all the webhooks URLs. So now every change we do in the CMS, we would get the data on our APIs. Now, before going through all the 3 APIs we have just created and their setup, I wanted to let you guys know how it would look for the payload once you receive data from your webhooks. So here we are in the new Webflow item API. Here would be the structure of the webhook data. So we would have here the payload, we would have the site ID, we would have the collection ID, which is the one we have on our database structure. And here we have all the field data. So we have the tag, the name, the slot, which is the unique identifier, also as the ID, which is also the unique identifier of this collection item. So yeah, I want to show you guys that the important things of this payload would be the ID of the collection item, the slot of the collection item, and the collection ID. with these main things, we would create our new data and also the field data, which is the dynamic data you created for this collection. So now if you have set up correctly on the previous part of this tutorial, you should be able to finish it by providing all the data needed in the three APIs we talked about earlier. So first, we would go through the new Webflow item. Here we have the same structure for three APIs. First, we have the get all raw input. That is the one function we are going to use to get all the data from the webhook. We will use the query all records for Webflow collections, which is the database table we have with name and Webflow ID for the CMS collection. Then we will use this Xano function, which is find first element in. We will send as array the collections variable we created using the query all records, and then we would check that the collection ID sent by the webhook is the same as the one from the database table. So we will check the Webflow ID from the table with the webhook.payload.collection ID. So we see in the previous part, this is the one collection ID from the webhook. So then we would set an if statement. We would have to set one if statement for each collection name. So in this case, because we only have one collection, we would only have one if, which is the blocks. When you're using Webflow collections, once you create a new item that has a rich text, it will send it like this. So if we go here, you're going to see that we, instead of having a rich text string, we have an overview, which is the name of the variable, and we have an array of items of this. So we will need to create a lambda function, which will be the one to create the HTML rich text. So yeah, that's very important. Then all we have to do is add a new record in the CMS blocks in this case, because this is the name of my CMS collection. So here we have the name, which is field data.name. Every one of these variables should have the same name in order to be easier to set them up. So as you can see here, all of it is in webhook.payload.fieldData. The name of the variable. Here we have name, tag, summary, image.url, because we only want the URL of the image we uploaded. And then the only ones you are going to see different are the CMS ID, which is directly on payload.id, and the rich text HTML that, as we said before, we have to create using these functions. So then we can see the edited Webflow item, which is basically the same structure as I said before, only we edit here and we find it using the CMS ID and the webhook.payload.id. And the same goes for the deleted. We only use the same if statement and delete the record using the webhook.payload.id. So in the next part, I will test all these three APIs and show you guys. Okay, so if you have arrived here, you have already finished all the setup you needed to work for this sync. So yeah, we will need to test all the three APIs in order to show you guys that it is working. So first, we're going to test the new Webflow item. So let's head over to the CMS blocks. Let's delete this so we can have a fresh start. So as you can see here, we have not even one record on this page. So if we go here to the CMS page and create a new one, let's go click create. Then we go back to the database and we refresh. We would see here. So as you can see, the new Webflow item API, it's working. So now let's test if we can edit it and it will refresh here. So let's edit, let's say the summary. So let's go here, we go to test blog, test summary, edited, and we click on save. So we go again to the database table, we refresh the page, and you can see here that it was edited. So it's pretty straightforward. If you set up everything according to the tutorial, you would see that this is working. So let's end up by showing you guys that the delete function is also working. So if we go here, we go to test block and we click on delete and save, and we go back to the CMS block database and we refresh. Now you can see here we have already deleted. So that was it. Next, on the a little last part, I will show you guys how to set up the same variables and records for the live and the test data source. So this will works if you have any amount of data source. So yeah, let me show you guys that. Now to finish this tutorial, I will show you guys how to handle these records within more than one database source. So this is a little extra if you're using more than one database source here. So first, as always, we will receive this data input of get all row input in our live data source. We would retrieve all the process. We would use the query all records, alright, find first element, the conditional, and then we will need to set this next part for every data source we have. Remember this. So if we do this from the live data source, and as we can see here, we have the test data source, we will need to use the set data source function of Xano. We would give the name, which is test in this case, and we would run again all functions. So we run it for the live and we run it for the test. So let's test it to see if this works. We go here, we create a new block, let's say test name, whatever tag, summary, and let's just send here an image and a little overview. So if we create this and we go back here, we go to the database, CMS blocks, we can see it here, but now we should also be able to see it here. So yeah, now that's working. You will need to set up the set data source function in each of the three APIs we created. And that would be it. We have successfully set up a way to sync Webflow CMS with a Xano database using webhooks and APIs. This setup can be really powerful for projects where you want to keep data in sync across platforms without manually managing each change. So, thanks for watching.